Joining me now is Jessie Jane Duff. She's a retired U.S. Marine Corps gunnery sergeant. She's a member of the Trump Advisory Board for Women and also a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Jessie, good to have you back on the show with us. Let's start off with this Turkey development, because currently the U.S. appears to have postponed the planned sanctions until Turkey actually activates the S-400 missile defense system. Why wait for the step? Should the U.S. go ahead with these sanctions?
I think the U.S. is trying to give Turkey the benefit of the doubt. It is a NATO ally, but they've made it very clear that this is not going to happen. When you're looking at you're a NATO ally buying Russian defense systems, the contradiction is pretty appalling on its face. So Turkey's now being put into a corner. We don't want to escalate tensions too rapidly. We're still dealing with the situation in Syria. If we start implementing sanctions too quickly, and then we could potentially lose ground with what we're trying to have as successes in Syria, because Turkey has tried to assist the United States. We've come to some resolution with what would go on in Turkey, and we want to keep those motions moving forward. We got to remember we've got a lot of pots on this stove, so you don't want to overreact and cause one of your pots to boil over. So this is really important that we're basically saying, don't put this into activation or we will enforce the sanctions. We're getting a last call here. I would suggest Turkey pays attention, because President Trump is not one to keep giving you a fire drill. At some point, it will happen.
Right, Jessie, as you point out, there are just a number of issues that the U.S. needs to deal with, so it's a matter of pick your battles right now. But the U.S. says that the S-400 missile system does pose a significant security threat to NATO defense systems. Explain how it is a threat.
Well, we have the system that we have, the F-35 is an aircraft that this particular defense system can shoot down. That is our aircraft. So essentially, what is it that we are trying to accomplish here, Turkey? When you're looking at having this system that could potentially go into place in Syria, where we have our own air forces that are flying, and we have our allies utilizing these air forces, what is your goal here? To shoot down your own allies? I mean, it's very clear. It's a contradiction with the systems that we are providing to them, and that they could potentially shoot down.
And there's also the concern that if it has the S-400 system, that somehow intel on American military equipment, including the F-35s, even though the program has been suspended, can somehow be conveyed to the Russians, which would be advantageous to them. And Jessie, as you point out, this relationship with Turkey under Erdogan has been very strained. So the bigger question is, should Turkey's membership in NATO be readdressed? I mean, is that something that other NATO members would back? Or if it would be the U.S. that comes up with it, would it be leading the fight alone?
I think we have been hearing questions about NATO allegiance by Turkey for some time. Many people have wondered where Turkey sits, because they have not necessarily benefited the United States in a lot of our national security measures. If you're going to sleep with the Russians, you cannot have the United States as your mistress on the side, and that's essentially what they're trying to do. They have to make a decision. Are they going to be a NATO partner, comply with NATO law, and at the same time, where are they standing with their Russian allies? You're making very good points that they're going to essentially enable the Russians to cause strategic harm to the United States and or its allies, and that is not a good game to play. While you're a NATO ally, what is the point of you getting involved in this agreement? So the sanctions are coming if they don't comply.
Jessie, thank you so much. Jessie Jane Duff, appreciate your analysis and perspective as always.